Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.
Welcome to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and we are at the Hy-Vee Club Room. Boy, that was tough to get out. Where we are every Wednesday at 7 p.m., doing 60 minutes of delicious radio. As we have done for the last couple of months, we're going to start off the show with our health coach, Emily Rose Shaw, and then we're going to move into talking about the farm crawl. So get ready for farm crawl, and meantime, let's talk about our health, because you're only going to find healthy things on the farm crawl anyway. So Emily, welcome again, as always, and you're looking great, so you must be eating a really good and healthy diet.
I sure am. Green smoothie every day.
You know, when are you going to give up that green smoothie stuff?
I don't know. I've been doing it for over 2 years every morning, so probably not for a while.
This morning I had a smoothie with blueberries, strawberries, kefir, yogurt, and a banana. And it was really delicious. And it looked gorgeous. I took a picture of it, actually, because it looked so pretty, because I did it in 2 layers. And so it had this kind of like marbled effect to it. It was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. But I had to be on the road, so it's always tough on the road to eat well. But if you start out with the smoothie, that helps the day at least. So now I know that we are moving into some different areas. We've been talking about the big picture of health and big picture ideas, and now we're going to talk about more specific topics.
Yeah, now we're going to be talking about physical activity and different aspects of health and food related to physical activity. And today we're going to be covering bone health, the best type of exercises and foods for your bones to help prevent and manage osteoporosis. And I just have a couple of facts here from the National Institute of Health that I wanted to share. According to the NIH, about 10 million people in the U.S. have osteoporosis, and another 34 million have low bone density, putting them at great risk for osteoporosis. And one out of two women and 1 out of 4 men over the age of 50 will break a bone due to osteoporosis, and women more so because of the changes in hormones as we age. The best time to focus on bone health is really in your childhood years, because by age 18 for girls and 20 for boys, most of our bone is built up. There is a genetic component that can increase our risk of getting osteoporosis, but bone is really a living tissue. It's constantly being broken down and built back up, so it's never too late to start taking action for your bones. And as you age, bones become weaker and more fragile, so it's really crucial to start taking action on the things we have control over, which is exercise and diet, which can make a huge difference.
So what type of exercise is best for bone health?
Well, the type of exercise you want to do is load-bearing exercises, which basically means you're carrying your own weight. Strength training exercises, we've heard that before, using weights, yoga, even using your body resistance, doing push-ups and sit-ups and different things like that on a mat at home. Those are all great because you're using your muscles, and the muscles pull on the bones, which stimulate new bone tissue growth, making them stronger. But also aerobic exercise is really great. So brisk walking, jogging, climbing stairs, hiking, you're standing up, so you're carrying your weight. So an example that wouldn't be as great of a choice for osteoporosis would be swimming, because you're not carrying your weight. But a mix of strength training and aerobic activity is really optimal.
So what I've been doing lately, I wonder how this fits in, I don't really want to run. At my delicate age, I have to be really careful about different aspects of my health. And so I don't want to run, but what I'll do is I'll do, say 30 seconds to a minute of sprinting, not all out, but sprinting to get my heart rate up, and then I'll walk for 5 minutes, and then I'll do it again. Do you think that that's effective to do it that way, or do you have to do it on for example, do you have to do it 10, 15 minutes straight of running?
No, you're absolutely right. The type of exercise you're describing is interval training, where, any time that you're if you're jumping up and down or you're running, you are putting pressure on your bones, which is good for bone health. But as you age, you also have to be careful about your joints. So if you're doing little spurts of the running, then that's a good idea. And there's actually new research that's come out about exercise that says that little spurts like that is actually could be more beneficial for the cardiovascular system than, say, 30 minutes of brisk walking. So I think you're doing good.
Thank you. All right. That's great. Many of us take calcium supplements. Well, wait a minute. I don't take calcium supplements, but many people take calcium supplements. But your focus is really not on supplements, is it? It's getting what you need from the food that you eat.
Yeah, exactly. I think supplementation is kind of like a good health insurance for most people. But I like to focus on getting all of our nutrients from whole foods as much as possible, just like for all different kinds of conditions. I think it's best to get nutrition from actual food. And there are some studies that actually indicate we absorb more calcium from the whole foods than supplements. One estimate was that we only absorb about 35% of the calcium from supplements, so that's not very much. Additionally, there's so many different kinds of nutrients that are needed for our bones, not just calcium. Vitamin D, of course, and vitamin K, C, A, and B, they all play roles, as well as all kinds of minerals, magnesium, manganese, copper, boron. And these nutrients come packaged in whole foods, and they work together in a very synergistic way. Vitamin D, though, is an exception.
All right, so we do hear more and more about the importance of vitamin D. So how do you recommend we get it?
Well, yeah, it's important because it helps our body absorb calcium. And it doesn't only help prevent osteoporosis, but also it helps battle depression, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and even obesity. And yet most Americans are deficient. So vitamin D is an exception to getting it in the whole food form because there's not a lot of really significant sources of vitamin D in foods. There are a couple of exceptions, like fatty fish like salmon and sardines. Those are pretty good. But often you'll find vitamin D fortified in drinks or breakfast cereals. But vitamin D is mostly sourced from sun exposure and from taking a supplement. And about 10 minutes of sun exposure daily for fair-skinned people is enough vitamin D, and about 15 to 20 minutes for darker skin tones. And there is some controversy among health experts about the exact combination of sun and supplementation, but I recommend getting it from the sun when you can, because that's the most natural, and then taking a supplement in the winter.
So, all right, getting it from the sun is the best way to go about doing it. What if some people have problems with the sun for their skin? What do you have to be exposed, or can you be covered up when you're out there? What's the way to go about doing it?
You need to have your skin totally bare, no sunscreen. So you need to have bare skin with no sunscreen for at least 10 minutes to get your vitamin D. And if you have real problems with the sun and you don't want to do that, you don't feel comfortable with that, then you can take a supplement.
How much bare skin?
Like what I'm wearing, like my arms and,
Okay, so the arms, it doesn't have to.
Arms is good.
Yeah,
Arms
okay.
work.
Arms are good. Okay. What are the top whole food sources then? Because you're a big whole foods person. What are the top whole food sources for bone health?
Well, usually when you think of bones, you think of milk. But if you're going to consume dairy, I would recommend fermented or cultured dairy products like yogurt because it's much more digestible. But there are plenty of other sources to get the nutrients we need for our bones, not just milk. So milk alternatives like almond milk that you buy at the store is commonly fortified with calcium and vitamin D. Also, tofu and tempeh, green leafy vegetables are wonderful. They have, of course, I'm a big...
Put them in your smoothie.
Yeah, I put them in my smoothie, so I'm getting my calcium and all these other minerals. So broccoli, also Brussels sprouts, mustard greens, kale, bok choy is wonderful. And then also beans, legumes have all these nutrients. And salmon, like I mentioned before, almonds, different kinds of nuts, seaweeds for their wonderful array of minerals, and then whole grains.
Wow. Okay. So more information at EmilyRoseShaw.com. She can be your health coach. She's my health coach. She's Great Taste health coach, which is awesome. And now, before you leave us for another week, what type of action step do we need to take?
Well, because we just entered the summer solstice, I would recommend getting outside. It doesn't have to be at noon in the, when it's the hottest out, but you get out there in the morning for 10 minutes and get your vitamin D, and you might find you're a little happier at that day too, because being out in nature is wonderful.
Thank you. That's great. Now, what I think is really funny is that Emily was preaching to the choir this week, because our theme this week is farm crawl, and everybody whose farm is on farm crawl is definitely out every day getting plenty of vitamin D. I doubt that it would be really interesting to see if anyone who was a farmer, a gardener, could possibly be deficient in vitamin D. That would be fascinating. Anyway, the whole theme of Farm Crawl is celebrating the American farmer, and I want to ask Jan Swinton to come over here wherever she is, right? Jan is our hometown harvest person. She is the person responsible for coordinating all of our local efforts for food locally. And you want to give us the dates for Farm Crawl?
We're having a farm crawl the 4th of July, on the very 4th of July. It's a Thursday this year, and so farms will be open from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. There will be lunch served in a couple different places on the crawl, and we'll get to that as we go through the crawl, but it's going to be a great open house, and we're hoping for really nice weather.
Yeah, that would be good.
Crazy weather in Iowa this year. We've had problems with weather.
All right, great. Well, now you're going to be back and forth talking with us, because some of the farmers are here, but some of them aren't, and you're going to fill us in on all this stuff. So what we're going to do, because this will be kind of fun, I think, is to just go through the crawl as it is. Now, can people go? How do people go about doing this? Let's talk about the logistics here.
I like to just leave my farm crawls wide open, and so we've got 8 farms and 2 parks on the crawl, 3 parks really on the crawl this year, and so anybody can go to any farm anytime. What we do is put out a list of addresses, and you can go to them. We've also got a little map with all the little points marked, and you can go any place you want. What often happens is you plan to go to all 13 places, and you get to 3 because you hang out, because it's more fun to just stay at one place. And so a lot of these places will be open again next year for a very similar crawl, and a lot of farmers will be happy to invite you out to their farm almost any time. So it's just an open house day. You can do it in any order that you want. So read the descriptions of the farms and listen to the farmers tonight and see which one sounds like it would be fun to you, and go.
All right. Sounds great. Yeah. So first up, we're going to talk with Claude Nicholson from Sharon's Produce. And Claude's at the farmers market every week. He grows certified organic in his high tunnel with 20 acres of grain and veggies.
It's 35 acres.
Who put this together?
I don't know who she was. I've got 35 acres of farm ground and 2.5 acres of garden and 2.25 acres of aronia berries.
And you're also known for your cucumbers, right?
Well, yeah. If I can get them growing before the varmints get them.
Oh.
So I'm having tough luck this year, because I've got
I don't want to hear that.
a critter that comes in and digs the seeds out of the flat. And so I'm replanting now, so hopefully.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to talk about, I know this isn't necessarily farm crawl stuff, but you also just developed a bar, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been working on a granola bar that I started back in January. So, and hopefully we get it produced by a bakery up north for Ragbri. So.
Oh yes, that's right. So that's going to be the big bicycle race across Iowa, and it's actually coming through Fairfield this year. So you can feed the bike riders some instant energy. That'll be great.
So, okay, I've got garlic going good now, and I'll have okra, squash, sweet potatoes. There's a bunch of stuff. So.
I would say lots of good stuff. It's always delicious. All right, so that's Claude Nicholson, and it's Sharon's Produce at 60. I got to see how far I can hold this out.
64. Highway 1.
Right. I'm glad that,
5 miles south of town on Highway 1.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Claude. All right. So now we're going to talk to our next person we're going to talk to is Mel Stock. Well, I don't know where she is, but aha. So we're going to talk to Dorothy Gilbert next. But before that, I'm going to mention that a couple other people on the crawl that aren't here. Ernie Hinkle. Ernie has Leslie's Little Bit of Heaven in Birmingham, and Ernie has been he's going to be 89 years old on July 23rd of this year, and he's been at the farmers market for as long as I can remember, and he's always growing all kinds of interesting things. Matter of fact, he has, I think, more things that are interesting that he doesn't bring to the farmers market. Gooseberries right now, but he has like tropical things growing too, in a secret area, I think, or whatever. Anyway, Ernie's a character, and you can go to visit his farm at 531 Cedar Street in Birmingham. Mel Stockwell from Calico Press. That's at 23096 Route J-16 in Birmingham. And there you can find a historic letterpress, print shop, and graphic design studio. And this is where old school crash printing meets cutting edge digital technology. And I really wish I really wish that Jan was here, because I have no idea why Mel is on the farm tour, farm crawl. Demonstrations. Okay, great. Okay, so Mel's going to do some printing demonstrations. So that'll be really actually very, very interesting. Thank you for that. Now, Dorothy Gilbert is with us. Dorothy's with Morris Park Farm, Timber Road, Stockport, Iowa. Friends of Morris Park will be preparing a celebration of farming through the centuries in Iowa. Expect to find a healthy Iowa lunch. That's going to draw quite a crowd. And then, of course, the watermelon seed spitting contest. There are rumors of homemade ice cream and fresh strawberries. We'll find out if those rumors have any substance. And donations for your lunch will help reside the old barn. All right. So, first of all, is there any truth to the rumors about ice cream and fresh strawberries?
Well, we decided that probably if we handled the watermelon, that would be enough. Okay? We'll have some sweets there, but it may not be ice cream.
Okay, so that's fair. Now, the watermelon spitting contest. Do you get to eat watermelon even if you don't spit the seeds, or do you have to participate in the spitting contest in order to eat watermelon?
Well, we want you to eat the watermelon, too. But, the contest will be there, yes.
So it's separate.
If you want to come and be a kid and spit watermelon seed, come ahead.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay, and what about lunch? Tell us a little bit about lunch.
Well, we had a couple of volunteers step forward and say they wanted to help us, and so since they do a lot of farmers market cooking, and so they're going to be cooking some pork loin. It'll be sliced right there on the spot, and we're going to put it onto a homemade bun made by one of our Amish ladies, and we're going to put it into a sack lunch simply because that way you can eat and stroll, because the park has a lot of things to see, and it is related to farming. It's a pioneer farmstead. So you can come, you bring your kids, there's places for them to play besides the watermelon seed spitting, and we just think that you'll have a good time.
Oh, it sounds like it'll be absolutely great. Morris Park, Timber Road, Stockport, Iowa, and there's going to be lunch available there, and everybody, when you go, be generous with your donation, because that's going to help reside the old barn.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Kim Keller, famous for baking pies, of course. Blooming Acres, 2340 Mint Boulevard in Fairfield. Kim and Steve have a nice little acreage. This person then decided to get a little smarter and not put down how many acres, because, we didn't want to make another mistake like Claude's. With a couple of hen houses just outside of Fairfield, and you'll remember Kim for, I'm reading this, but I already said that you do fresh fruit pies, right?
Right. And we'll be serving pie and probably homemade ice cream at our farm.
Probably?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Well, my husband said no, he didn't want to do it, but the weather sounds like it's getting better now, so I think we're going to do homemade ice cream with the pie.
That sounds really great. Now, what kind of pies?
It'll be probably a mixture. We'll have I do a lot of different. They'll all be fruit pies, and I do a good variety. But probably strawberry rhubarb and raspberry will definitely be there. So and then maybe some peach and cherry. So.
Now, you are more multidimensional than pies because you have all kinds of vegetables. So is there anything that you really love growing, any particular vegetable that you really are attracted to?
Well, I seem to the heirloom tomatoes is what we really like to work with. They take a long time to produce, but they're well worth the wait when it comes to the flavor. And we've got some different ones. I'm always trying different ones. And also summer and winter squash, we always like to try different varieties of those, and especially kind of the heirloom varieties of those too.
Is there any particular variety of either the tomatoes or the summer or winter squash that you like?
The Cherokee purple tomatoes are very hard to beat, but I have been getting black cherry tomatoes from Tenco, and we are growing black cherry tomatoes on our farm too, so we'll have those this summer. And then for squash, the delicatas are really good, and then we're doing like a Thelma Sanders sweet potato squash, which is kind of an old-fashioned acorn type squash. It doesn't have the green rind; it's got kind of a white colored rind, and it's a really good winter squash. And I like some of the unusual colors and things. They make really nice fall decorations, but they're also really good to eat. And I never plant a seed unless it says it's a really sweet squash.
That's great. Thanks, Kim. You're listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and we are in the Hy-Vee Club Room, where we are every Wednesday at 7 p.m., bringing you 60 minutes of delicious radio. Corey Klum's next up on the Farm Crawl. He heard his name, and he's jumping up to join us. Corey's at 2348 Middle Glasgow Road in Fairfield. And the name of his farm is K5 Produce, and it's a family affair where both Corey and Sean, who are teachers at the Fairfield Middle School, and their 3 kids manage the farm and market stand all summer long. Now, is that forced labor?
Part of being in the family. That's just what we tell the kids. No, it's a great time that we bond together as family. We really do enjoy that time. The kids are growing up, and pretty soon they won't be around. So we're just enjoying the time to spend together outside in nature the way it's intended.
And so do you have any particular, like Jan, she has her favorites. Do you have some things that you just love to grow or the kids love to grow?
I tell you what, the kids' favorite is still dirt carrots. They love carrots, and we started selling a lot of carrots last year at market, and then beets. We raised 3 different varieties of beets. I think I have 4,000 feet of beets right now. And then we got 21 varieties of tomatoes on our farm. So, yeah, and we have aronia berries, and it's just a little bit of everything. The kids started picking choke cherries yesterday. My daughter picked 4 gallons of choke cherries. So it's just whatever nature gives us. You know.
Now, explain choke cherries.
Choke cherry, the choke berry, which is the aronia berry, as Claude informed me, educated me. But the choke cherry is native as well. A lot of people will use it as a shelter belt. The birds and the animals really love it. It's kind of tart, but they're really good. It's just not a lot there. So you got to get a lot in order. My wife makes a great cherry crisp, so she makes that with our choke cherries.
Now, do the kids have, is it a particular time? In other words, they come home from school or before they go to school in the morning, do they have different chores that they have to do every day to keep a regular routine? Because I would think that would be the easiest way to do it, to have a routine.
Yeah, with the kids, it is all routine. It's no different than teaching. My kids, my youngest son likes chickens, so he has roughly 50 chickens. He just got 30 new chickens. And then all the kids help start seed. We started seed in February. And those are all our tomato and pepper plants. So it's kind of a year-round thing for us. And then we seed save. So I teach all the kids, not only at school, but my own kids how to seed save. So we collect seed and then start that in February.
I think that's terrific that you're actually teaching the kids at school, to do those things and bring those skills, hopefully, to adulthood, and they'll continue then to grow, because we have such a need for more people to be working and producing as opposed to factory farms. So that's terrific. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, next on the tour. Aha, Jan's up. She missed her chance before when we covered several people who right.
Sorry about
so
that, Steve.
Wayne Nisley's farm. Oh, very good. I love that. Okay.
Thanks, Jim. All right, Wayne Nicely.
Nicely.
Yeah, it's an Amish farm, a really cool Amish farm. They do a lot of vegetables. They have been certified organic in the past. They're not certifying anymore, but they're still organic. They have a lot of greenhouses. Do you ever go out there, Kim? Yeah. They have a lot of really nice hoop houses with flowers and that sort of thing early in the spring. And they do mums in the fall. My favorite part is they have a goat barn, and they milk dairy goats every morning and every afternoon. And we were out there with a photographer about a month ago getting that picture that's on the brochure, and they were milking while we were there. And so we ran out and had a lot of fun with the milking, and the little girl that was about 8 years old, we kept saying, there's a kid, a baby goat right over there. And she kept saying, yeah, they're really fast. They run really fast. And suddenly the goat looked away and was looking over the other direction, and she just sprinted off barefoot, caught it by the back of the neck, and brought it over to me. And I picked it up, and there's a picture of me now holding it, carrying around this little baby goat. So it's a lot of fun. That's a really nice farm. They do all of their field work with horses instead of tractors and trucks, and even all their wagons are pulled with horses. And so it's a very active farm, and that's a really nice one to visit.
Okay, so that's Wayne Nicely, 2009 Velvet Leaf in Lockridge, Brush Creek Greenhouse and Produce. Now, while you're up here, let's talk about one other group that isn't here, Don Hunter and Joy Craig, 23, I think it is, 01, Kale Boulevard and Fairfield Aurora Farm.
Right, another one of my favorite farms. This is a farm that's been going for a long time. Dawn Hunter and her husband bought the acreage out there on Kale, and it's kind of a secluded spot now because the bypass went through, and so they've kind of got the end of the road there. They have invited people to come out and grow on their farm for a number of years, and Joy Craig was one who started growing there probably 10 years ago. It's a very diverse farm. They have a lot of chickens that are well cared for, and Joy brings her son out, and often her son and a friend come out and kind of play in the rocks while the women are doing the gardening. And they have a little cool cold frame that they use in the spring and fall to kind of keep plants going a little bit longer than they would otherwise. They have a really interesting permaculture project back in the woods, and so that's something that you could ask them about and they could show you too. They just had an open house on May Day at a little building, a little home, log cabin that they've put up on the property that's made from peeled whole logs. And so you'll be able to see that when you get out there too. They're very, very busy farm, really nice people, and they can show you around.
Thank you very much, Jan. That's great, and that sounds like a great place. Every single place, it's really going to be tough. You're going to have to plan your time well if you're going to get to a lot of these farms. So that's something to do, is to think seriously about the time that you have and make it work. Now, Barb Grijalva is here with her daughter Dallas, and they have been actually working very diligently while we've been talking, because they are our guest chefs actually on Great Taste. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, but Barb and her farm is at 2254 136th Boulevard in Fairfield, and it's called Back to the Basics. It only took me about 2 years to remember that name. Every time I went to write a check for Barb at the farmers market, I had to say, now what's the name of that farm again? I don't know what it was about that, but it was fairly silly in a way. Anyway, tell us a little bit about your stop.
Okay, we are at 2254.
Look that way.
2254 136 Boulevard. We have close to 20 acres. We use no sprays, no pesticides. On the farm crawl day, we're going to have barbecues out cooking at our farm, vending from their trailer, which is kind of exciting. They're an award-winning restaurant in Ottumwa. And we just grow a variety of things. We have sweet corn, popcorn, watermelons, all kinds of squash, potatoes, all kinds of greens. So a lot to see at our farm.
The best popcorn I've ever tasted. Those of you who listen to the show know that. It's amazing. What's the variety?
Robust yellow.
Man, that stuff is outrageous. When's that going to be available? I just want to get a little, clue, so I'm right there.
Well, this year we had to replant because of all the bad weather that we've had, but we hope to have it ready, in early October, I think. It won't be ready for the second farm crawl this year like it was last year.
Okay, so that's all right. We can handle that. Anyway, now what in the world have you guys been doing back here?
We are making a vegetable pie and tomato pie, and everything is from the market today, and then what we couldn't get the market, we picked up at Hy-Vee. So we have Kim Keller's eggs, and Dave's Mater House's tomatoes, and Back to the Basics greens and potatoes. Let's see, what else do we have?
We have a delicious arugula salad that we're going to have. And I'm looking at Jan, and I think that she's cutting like huge chunks of cheese to put in there.
We have a arugula salad that Jan's working on, so it's going to be really good. Everything's local food.
Now, your daughter goes to culinary school, right?
Yes.
Dallas, do you want to come over here and talk for just a minute? That would be great. You're busy. So what have you been up to over here?
I've just been prepping everything and and helping out. I've been going to culinary school for 2 years now. I have 1 semester left, and I've been cooking at the farmers market, so I thought I'd help cook here today.
Now, you made homemade mayo to put in one of your dishes, right?
Yes, that's hard work.
Kim's eggs. With Kim's eggs.
Uh-huh. That's great. That's great. And so what are you doing? Right now you're grating cheese for the vegetable pie. Is that what's going on?
Yes, that is what I'm doing.
Okay, so now what we need to get you to give us a couple of recipes so we can put them up online when you get a chance in the next couple of days, all right? Any idea what you want to do after you get out of culinary school?
I'm going to go for business management, and I want to own my own restaurant someday.
Okay, so I've got plenty of advice for you. You can talk to me after the show. All right? Now, Cedar Valley Winery. Now, there's a great stop on the tour. Penny Morgan is here to talk about Cedar Valley Winery at 2034 Dewberry Avenue in Batavia. And they're producing award-winning wines, and the tasting room will be open all day. Is that right, Penny?
All day on the 4th.
So tell us a little bit about the operation.
We are growing our own grapes there on the farm. We have currently 7 varieties of grapes. We have 10 different types of wines that we are making from those 7 varieties. And between raindrops, we're doing a lot of mowing.
And I think it's important that you mention the fact that you're growing the grapes on the farm, because some wineries, even in Iowa, don't actually grow their own grapes, do they?
That's a true statement. They'll import grapes from other locations, or they'll import a concentrate of juice and then go ahead and make their own wine out of it.
So now anybody can come out there. Probably, when are you open normally? But not just the wine crawl, because you're not just open for the wine crawl, right?
No, we're open 1 to 6 daily. On Saturdays, we're open 10 to 5, and on Sundays, we're open in the afternoon as well. Sometimes we're not around on Sundays, so it may be kind of a hit or miss. But
okay, but wine crawl, you'll be there.
We'll be there from 10 to 5, right? In fact, we're going to be open later if we're trying to make plans to have some live entertainment. So if later in the evening you want to sit on the deck and enjoy a glass of wine, we'll try and do what we can to make you happy.
Now that sounds like now you can personally take care of your schedule. You know where your last stop is going to be. That's at the Cedar Valley Winery. Penny, thank you very much. That's terrific. I want to talk with Michael Havelka now. Michael is not on the farm crawl, but Michael has a very interesting operation. And Michael was part of a panel discussion that we held recently at the Green Building Supply, where we had Matt Steigerwald, who's the chef at the Lincoln Cafe and Lincoln Wine Bar in Mount Vernon, Carl Blake, who is the owner of Rustic Rooster Farms in Ionia, Iowa, who's breeding heritage pigs. And we had several other people there, and the panel was I thought it was pretty fascinating, actually, listening to everybody. And Michael has been working on an idea that I think is very important for lots of people as they think about retirement, and that is he's kind of taken a look at farming as a way to have your own personal 401k program.
Right, yeah, well, I've seen the 401k one. All the retirement plans kind of go off and then come back, and you're never quite sure about it. And market gardening and just gardening has been I've been doing it all my life, and seriously since probably right after high school. And so I'm just kind of, for retirement, I'm gonna mainly to supplement our income. I'll be growing about 3 or 4 acres of vegetables, probably a 1/4 acre of asparagus and 2 acres of Chinese chestnuts, and I'm just kind of trying out various things as the year, as time goes on, as to what things really work for me, and so just kind of easing into it. I mean, I've done a little bit off and on as far as commercial stuff, but never really, because I've got 2 other jobs. So, but if I could make enough money doing it, that would be my full-time job.
Well, I think it's really fascinating because it's something that many people could really do. I mean, I don't think we're certainly not going to replace all of the producers that we have, the producers that are on the market crawl and all the other producers, but it's something that we can integrate into our own lives, even if we don't have acreage. even if we just have a small patch of land, we could actually supplement our income simply by growing more of our own food.
Well, that was my number one thing we've done over the years is the best deal you can do is eat your own food because you're getting full retail on that. And you're getting the best quality. And that's always been our primary goal. And we're doing more and more things that'll store naturally over winter in the root cellar and things like that. And so we're continuing to increase that, but moving into a little more commercial for retirement. So, and like, you can grow a lot of strawberries on a pretty small piece of land, and green beans and squash and tomatoes. And so you don't need a huge amount of land to do vegetables.
Yeah, I think that's a really fascinating. Another thing is, what about delivery? Because there's an interesting concept there too.
Well, I'm almost thinking of moving in. Like I have been selling a little bit to Steve here, so and it's worked out really nice. And I could just go around and get a little route going when I'm kind of leaning towards where I can just it'd be kind of like a CSA, but it'd be more like when I produce it, I'll bring it by, and you just pay for what you get. And so that's been something that's really attracted. It's been one other attractive aspect of it.
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting speaking about this whole thing, because if you're growing something that's different, that somebody likes, one of the things that you can do is you could look at neighborhoods as a delivery point, not just the farmers market, but for example, I kind of am a dissemination point for my neighborhood. So if somebody has something interesting, if they bring it to me because I like it, then I can disseminate it to all the people in my neighborhood. And it's really easy for the farmer then, because there's not a lot of work, and just bring it to one person as opposed to trying to hit 15 or 20 or 30 other people. So
also one other aspect was, that worked out really great for the farmer and for the community. And one other item you talked about exercise and getting plenty of sun, as you mentioned earlier. And so especially for retirement, keeping that, I was out working this morning at first thing, sickling down weeds and doing various things with the trees. And I said, boy, I was kind of got my workout, and I didn't have to pay for that. It was just kind of came natural.
It's absolutely perfect. And your chickens get their workout because they go out to the asparagus patch and eat all the weeds out there.
Right. We've got it timed so that the chickens, I was kept throwing out compost to the chickens, and they weren't eating any of the asparagus. And I said, well, wait a minute. This could be a good match. And so when we're not in the picking mode, we don't have them in there while we're picking for health reasons. But they're out there fertilizing, and they just love grass and weeds. Our patch was just infested with grass, and they cleared it out in no time. And it takes all the work out of it pretty much.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Michael.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah.
You're listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and this is 60 Minutes of Delicious Radio. We're celebrating the American farmer. We're talking about Farm Crawl that is in Fairfield, Iowa on July the 4th. And I'm wondering, Jan, are you here? Is it possible, you think on the internet, I'm sure that there are farm crawls all over the country. Is it easy for people to find? Is there a directory of anything like that? Or do you have to check with your local farmers market generally?
You probably want to check with your local farmers market. The market manager usually knows what's going on around town, and around the area. There's not a lot of farm crawls that go on. Ours are free. It's free for you to visit any farm on that day and talk to other farmers and ask them if you can come out. That's how we get our face of the farmer connected to the people that are eating the food. And so that's a really important part of it. But most farms are really busy places. And if there starts to be visitors coming every day they can't get their work done. So we try to open up once a year for any farmers in a certain area, and then another time in another area. We've actually got 3 farm crawls going on this year. There's another one down in Van Buren County along the J40 byway, scenic byway. It's a beautiful area, and that one is at the end of July, the 20th, I believe, is a Saturday. And then we have another one that is the Sunday after Labor Day in September, and it's kind of a whole different thing. We got a lot of pumpkins going on by then and that sort of stuff. And so it's a different kind of a crawl at different times of the year. There's different things coming into season.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's great. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask a question to Corey again. I want to ask a little bit about your kids and the eggs. Is this a business then that they have going, and how does that work?
With the eggs? My kids, it was more for our family to begin with, but then they showed a lot of interest in it, especially my youngest son, Kai. And so he wanted to reinvest. He sold eggs at market, and he took that money and reinvested and bought more chickens. And it's kind of getting bigger and bigger, although their mother does not like birds. So it's just tends to be my daughter and my two sons and myself doing the chicken chores, although my wife is wonderful about cleaning eggs. I got to give her that.
Now, let's talk a little bit about that. Do people sometimes have a hesitation, the public, buying eggs that they don't find at the grocery store?
Yeah, I think that, it's origin of anything. We got to educate ourselves on whatever we're consuming. I think that was well spoken earlier today when you were talking about that. If you don't know the origin, or the trust factor comes in with the person possibly raising, I think it is definitely a red flag that you need to maybe educate and just investigate, just ask. And people that are true, they're not going to have any problems with that.
Now, do we need to? Somebody told me that when you handle farm fresh eggs, you have to wash your hands afterwards. Is that correct? Is there anything that we need to do different when we're handling farm fresh eggs as opposed to, we'll say, the eggs that definitely don't have anything on them that you would buy at your local establishment?
I think hygiene is huge. I really do. You don't know the trace materials that are present. And so proper hygiene with whether it's eggs or produce, I think it's really important that we pay attention to what we're doing. And then also with the pesticides and herbicides that some people do, we don't do that at our farm. You just need to be paying a little bit more attention to how you're doing things each and every day.
Thank you very much. Claude, can I ask you a question? I wanted to ask you, as far as, could you just explain to people that there is a certification process for people to sell at the market?
Well, we are certified locally produced, and it vegetables, crafts, whatever. So we went to everything this year. So if they show up and they want to sell, then we give them the forms to fill out, and then one of the board members will go out and audit their farm and make sure that they are producing what they're selling.
So that's great at our market, that people can be assured that what they're getting is local produce, no matter what farm is represented.
Right.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So I wanted to ask if any of the other farmers have anything that they would like to add about what they're actually doing on their farm, because otherwise I'm going to have to ask some other questions to Jan Swinton, because I really, really am so curious all the time about everything. So yes, Kim, would you please tell us whatever you have on your mind, because I just think this is a great opportunity to share. This is something that you guys do. You dedicate your basically most of your time to doing this, and it's a wonderful thing because you're feeding people, for crying out loud. I mean, you're feeding us healthy food that we can't get unless you guys are actually doing your thing.
I kind of wanted to tag on to what Michael was talking about. About 4 years ago or so, my husband and I both lost our jobs at the same time when the economy crashed. And so he did have a 401k build up, but it just, every time we got a statement, it was going down and going down. And I said, if you want to take that money and invest it in a small tractor, we could use it on our farm and use it for our produce and stuff, because we do have a 90-acre farm, but most of it is in a CRP program where we don't farm it and the government pays us to not farm it. So,
we should talk about that more.
Well, it's going to come out in about another 2 years after this year. So I have big plans for that afterwards. But anyway, so we went ahead and invested and got a small tractor to mow our yard. It has a mower on to mow the yard with, because we have a huge yard. And then it has a tiller on the back and then a scoop on the front. So it's been kind of a godsend for us, because it's only the two of us. We don't have any kids to help us out at home. And we have about 5 acres of produce, and then the high tunnel too. And so, of course, you give a guy permission to go buy a tractor, and he has the money to do it. He's going to go do it right off the bat. So he did a good job picking that out. So, and I can drive it too and everything. So it is a very good investment that we made. And our farm is going to probably be our retirement, when we both quit working in town, because people tend to live longer and you have to have some kind of income coming in. You can't rely on the government to support you, the way things are going. So our farm will be, and land is valuable. We're lucky that we bought our land when we first got married and have had it all the years that we've had it, because it's so expensive now compared to what it was when we first bought our farm in the 70s. So that's I just when he was talking about that, I thought, yeah, that's kind of what we had in mind when we were doing our farming too, and I'm sure the people here have that in mind too. And it is, Fairfield is a good community to support us local farmers. They are very good to come to our farmers market and spend money, and they don't squibble about the price or anything. They go ahead and pay us what it's worth, and they know what it's worth, and they appreciate the locally grown produce, and they realize the hard work that we go to, because it's not easy work. We enjoy doing it. That's why we do it. We love being outdoors, and we like to grow things, but it is hard work. Just ask my chiropractor. I'm there every other week. So
you should just give him a share.
I know. That's what, we've been talking about that a little bit. So yeah. So, but it's, but I do really enjoy what I do. So that's why I do it.
Thanks. I think that one thing that I do want to mention that we've mentioned a couple of times, and that is this whole aspect of traceability. To be able to actually know where your food comes from, the food that you're putting on your plate, is a gift that we are completely lucky to have in this community. And there are plenty of farmers markets all over the country now where people also can take advantage of that. But we have such a dedicated group of people here locally that provide this produce for us and other things, eggs and meat. So it's really a fantastic thing. And I wonder who would feel like they were a high tunnel expert that could talk a little bit about high tunnels. Who's going to step forward on that? Because somebody is a high tunnel expert. Now, don't be bashful. There's got to be somebody around here who's going to talk about high tunnels. Okay, so Kim, come on. Talk to us about high tunnels. Tell us a little bit about what this has, what they are, and also what they've done to extend the entire life of the market.
Okay, well, I do work for Jefferson County Extension as a horticulture program assistant, so I know a little bit. Not that I know more about it than other people that have high tunnels, but I do go to a lot more programs and know what's available out there. But a high tunnel is it's like a big greenhouse, but it's not a greenhouse either. You grow your vegetables. It's a big structure built like a greenhouse. It has no heat or no electricity in it, and you grow your produce in the ground. So it's just like having a garden under plastic, really. And we do have a high tunnel on our farm. We've had it this is our third year for having the high tunnel. And we did grow produce all year round this year. We have pretty decent winters here in Iowa. Sometimes it gets maybe extremely cold, but we haven't had one yet while we've had the high tunnel. And so we had spinach and beets and carrots and kale and year round, and sold it at the indoor market. So that's one good thing about the high tunnel. Ours is 30 foot wide by 96 foot long. And one thing about our high tunnel is we do have double plastic over the top of it, which that's not really in the standards of a high tunnel, but in Iowa, that's a very good thing to have, because when you have the real extreme weather like we do with the strong winds and the hail and stuff, it does save your tunnel. I know one of our growers has lost the plastic off of her tunnel this summer, and she lost a tunnel last summer, and I'm thinking maybe if she would have had double plastic on it this year, that might have helped save her tunnel, because it does make it a lot stronger, and it helps reinforce it a lot more too, because she did put up a stronger structure this year, but if she had the double plastic, it might have helped keep it on there.
Now, do you need any type of fuel to keep those warm in the winter, or are they just sustainable by the weather that we have outside?
They're just sustainable by the weather we have outside. We do, when it gets extremely cold, we'll put low tunnels inside the high tunnel, which is maybe you'll put make a 4 foot high tunnel that you'll put over your crops, or maybe even a shorter one. You could even do a double low tunnel, put a 4 foot one and then maybe a 2 foot one under that if it's getting really, really cold out.
So then the only other thing that inhibits the growth, because I know from talking to you over the winter, is just lack of sunlight.
True. And so you kind of go with those crops that will grow during the winter, and they do grow slower, but some of the crops are a lot better grown in the wintertime than what they are in the summertime. Like if you have carrots and you get them in early enough and they get to going good, carrots are really sweet when you pull them in the winter and sell them and have them in a winter market. And also spinach. It's just spinach is almost like candy. It's just amazing how the sweetness comes up in the spinach when it's grown in a tunnel. So it's kind of good to get those crops in the wintertime.
Not only is it great for consumers, but again, when we talk about this whole income flow, it extends that income flow to, instead of 7-8 months, it extends it the entire year.
Exactly, yeah. It does help a lot.
And being local here, it's wonderful to be able to go to the market now on a year-round basis. And that is just incredible because I think there were only, I'm going to say, maybe there were 2 or 3 weeks this winter where you really couldn't get much, but that was it. Otherwise, seemed to be plenty of food available.
Yeah, it was really amazing. I was really surprised myself at how well things did and how long they lasted. So it was a really good year for us. So.
And there goes the Celebrate the American Farmer sign, which those of our listeners didn't get the exciting ability to see. But anyway, you guys are still around, right?
Yeah.
Even though the sign fell down, you're still here. So I think that's a really interesting thing. And you can actually do that. People could adapt that type of technology for their own use in a small space, right?
You could. It's a larger space, like this a bigger one like what we have and other growers in the county have are easier to keep the heat in versus what a smaller one would be because you have a bigger area. So once it gets warmed up during the day, that heat's going to stay in there a little bit better than what it would in a smaller tunnel.
Okay. Barb, can you come over again? I wanted to ask you, what are the specific challenges, the biggest challenges that you face being a small farmer?
Being a small farmer, it's just the weather, bugs. It's just hard to get out there if you can't get in to do your work and get things planted. And then lately we've had hail, which Corey knows about, and just high winds, a lot of mud.
Yes, so you can't even get out there because you're sink to your hips.
Yeah, we've had to do a lot of replanting this year because of the cold that we had and then a lot of rain, so it's a big struggle.
What's the biggest thing that people use? What are the methods that people use? Because most people around here grow without chemicals. So what are the most common methods that people use to keep the pest situation in hand?
We don't really do much for pest control, just whatever it is, and we do a lot of cultivating. We have a little cultivator that we use to keep weeds and stuff down. So if you can control your weeds, then you're going to pretty much control your bug population too. So they don't have all the weeds to kind of hang into. Mm-hmm. So but we have them. They're there.
Well, I think one of the other things is that you probably learn what varieties of produce are best to grow here, because I know we have some of the people around here have problems with zucchini, for example.
Well, if you rotate your crops, you shouldn't really have much of a bug infestation, because if you grow zucchini in one spot, do not grow it there again next year, because if there's going to be the beetle that gets up into the stem of your squash plants, then if you move it to a different area, then more than likely you're not going to have it the next year. So rotating crops is a big, big thing that you should probably do.
Thank you very much. Yep. You're listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and we are bringing you 60 minutes of delicious radio. And speaking of delicious, I'd like maybe Dallas could tell us exactly, are we going to be eating soon? Because the smells are really delicious, that's for sure. And I hear bells going off and everything else. So.
Well, it looks like one of our pies are done. Vegetable pie. Yeah, the vegetable pie.
Ooh, that really looks good. I think you could tell people how to make that because it was pretty simple, right?
Yeah, so you just warm up some oil in a pan, and you can get some garlic and some onion chopped up in there and saute that, and then put the Swiss chard, yeah, in there. And then we boiled some potatoes, added the potatoes into a pot, and we mix it all up with some cheese, and then you bake it in a pie crust that's already baked. Yeah,
so it's really simple, especially if you don't make your own pie crust. If you want to, that's great, but if you don't have a pie crust handy, you can just buy a pre-made pie crust. And now, do you need to, if it's frozen, do you need to bake that ahead of time?
Yes, you do.
So what do you have to do? Put it in the oven for how long and at what temperature?
It was at 400 degrees for 15 minutes for that pie crust.
Okay, then you're just simply putting that whole mixture into the pie crust, and all you need to do is wait till the cheese melts.
Yes, that's what we did for the vegetable one.
And then of course, you have to eat it.
Exactly.
And we'll be doing that very shortly. Okay, so the tomato one, you can tell me. So well, come on up here and tell us exactly what's in that tomato one then.
We have a tomato pie, and we use Dave's Mater House tomatoes, and it has, I could remember that, tomatoes and cilantro. We cooked bacon, and Dallas made homemade mayonnaise, and then we grated cheese, and then we put it in the pre-baked pie shell.
Okay, you have any proportions that you can give us?
This one here, well, we doubled the recipe, so it's the baked pie crust and 2 tablespoons.
So it's 1 9-inch deep dish pie shell. Okay.
A little bit of salt and pepper, which I never measure anything. I just throw it in.
That's the best way to cook, I think.
Yeah. A tablespoon of cilantro, which I probably added more than that. And then we did some bacon, 6 to 12. I did little strips. And a half a cup of mayonnaise and a cup of grated cheddar cheese.
So is it the same procedure then? You just mix it all together and pour it into the pie crust?
Pour it in the crust and bake it in the oven.
That is so simple.
And then we have the arugula salad that we made. See, what did we add? We added peas, tomatoes, and cheese to that. And then we're going to have a vinaigrette dressing.
Oh, are we? Okay, so you're pointing at me, so I guess I have to mix that up afterwards. Okay, that's fine. So that's just going to be some wonderful olive oil. Actually, we're using some organic Greek olive oil and organic Greek balsamic vinegar. So it's going to be fun.
We're going to sample some of Cedar Valley's wine.
We are.
Yes. So I think, what kind did you go get? The Vignol.
Okay, so that sounds... You see what you miss when you either don't live here or you don't come down here on a Wednesday night? I mean, it's like you... Honestly, if anyone can tell me that they could find a better meal in this town out, I know that we can all cook. But if you can tell me that you can find a better meal out than you can eat here, doubtful that that's the case. So that's terrific.
I have another thing.
You do?
It's about the farm crawl. If you want to go onto the Fairfield Farmers Market Facebook page, we have the flyer posted on there. We didn't get Cedar Valley Winery on that one, but I will scan a new flyer with them on it. I'll try to get that done tomorrow. So you can go on the Facebook page and see the flyer, and there should be a map on there with the numbers on it. And if you need to, you can contact me. My contact information is on the Facebook page.
And the Facebook page, how do you get there?
Fairfield Farmers Market Facebook page. How do you get there, Dallas?
So, all right, that's great because you
just log on to Facebook and go through the search engine, and you should just put Fairfield Farmers Market, and it should pop up.
Perfect. That's great.
Check the like button so we can get a lot of people to like our Facebook page.
All right, that's great. Okay. Celebrate the American Farmer, July 4th farm crawl around, we'll say, Fairfield, Iowa. Claude Nicholson, Ernie Hinkle, Mel Stockwell, Morris Park, Kim Keller, Corey Clem, Wayne Nicely, Barb Grahalva, Don Hunter and Joy Craig, and Cedar Valley Winery. Don't miss it, July the 4th. You've been listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and this has been 60 minutes of delicious radio.
Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.